In a spacious office in a high-rise building, a man is sitting at a desk working. He called and said, "Quickly call Department Manager Song to come here for me." The person on the other side replied, "He's gone out." The man rubbed his chin and asked again, "Get out, now." The other person said, "Yes, he was only gone for half an hour." The man said, "I understand." He took out his cell phone to call a person named Baek Young-woo, and a beeping sound rang out. That night Baek Young-woo came out and saw the man sitting on the sofa. He said, "Oh, here you are." The man leisurely said, "Okay, then let me move." Young-woo immediately rushed over and hugged the man, saying, "Where are you going? Stay and play with me." The man kissed Young-woo's hair and smiled, thinking he had a new friend so he wouldn't play with him anymore. "Thank you." Young-woo was surprised and asked again, "New friend, what are you talking about?" The other person whispered in your ear, "Aren't you new friends, so this is adultery." Young-woo laughed in confusion. "What are you talking about, really?" The man grabbed Young-woo's hand and put it on him, then hugged him and said, "Tell him the truth." "What do you ask?" Their faces were close, their noses touching. The man said, "You lied to me, right?" Immediately Young-woo's face wrinkled and he slapped the man's forehead angrily and said, "Oh, seriously, did you eat something wrong today? You just got home and are already talking nonsense." The man angrily said, "From tomorrow you can play more with your new friends." Young-woo replied, "Huh? I will terminate Secretary Song Tae-young's position." Young-woo pointed with wide eyes and said, "Huh, how come? I only met Secretary Song for a moment." The man flipped through the documents, closed his eyes, took a breath and said, "I don't know, I should say we'll meet for a while. I'm not busy so I called but you didn't pick up." Young-woo immediately turned around the man and pleaded, "I don't know why, I didn't call because I was afraid you were busy." He was busy talking so he was nowhere to be found. He asked, "What's so important that you're not answering the phone?" He replied in a low voice, "Yes, that was indeed adultery." The man said, "I knew right away." Baek Young-woo immediately shouted loudly, saying it was not true. The man put down his work documents and looked over and said, although he couldn't believe it, at least a kiss might make him believe it. Young-woo crossed his arms. He did it just once and was so childish." "You sat on him?" the man asked, "so you're not going to do it?" Young-woo asked, "Why don't you use honorifics at a time like this?" The man asked again, not liking it. He blushed and went to kiss the man and said, "A bit despicable." The two of them moved all their arguments to bed to resolve it. When it was over, the man kissed Young-woo's eyes and gently said, "So this is really, really cool." The two of them clasped their hands together. The man said, "This time I won't forgive you." In the morning, Secretary Song took a cup of coffee and drank it leisurely. Having said that, he couldn't easily ignore it. Young-woo lay face down on the sofa next to him and jumped up, hugging his pillow and saying, "You can't say that." As soon as he stood up, he felt a numbness in his back that made him lie down again and cry, "Ah." Secretary Song said, "You don't need to say everything." Young-woo shed tears. Clearly he did nothing. He stretched out his watermelon and said, "It's true, if you insist on doing it, how can anyone else know about it? Just give up for Baek Young-woo." Young-woo sat up straight, hugged his knees and said, Our Secretary Song was afraid that Soo-han would get angry so he ran away." Secretary Song turned around in surprise. What are you talking about anyway? Let's look at this." He put the iPad in front of Young-woo. He picked it up and asked, "What is this?" Secretary Song smiled and said, "If you want to do business, you have to do it properly." He very professionally created an assessment sheet for Young-woo called Baek Young-woo's part-time job application status. Young-woo exclaimed with excitement. The two began to discuss with each other. "Wow, that's really creepy." "This? Why do I find it more creepy?" "Actually, this is the secret weapon, so just let go of your hand first." Secretary Song asked, "What about this?" Yang replied, "Completely normal." "This?" Secretary Song kept standing behind the sofa asking questions, making Young-woo think, "Let me do it myself." The two went directly to a part-time job with a bright rainbow-colored sign. Yang exclaimed, "It looks even more terrible in real life." Secretary Song stood behind him with his arms crossed and replied, "If you want to do business, you have to do it this way." He introduced the interior of the restaurant. The inside was also fully equipped. Young-woo thought, too full. Secretary Song crossed his arms and said, "You only worked for 3 days, more than that and I can't be responsible." Young-woo smiled and said, "I know, so to celebrate the opening day, I'll tell you my fortune and give you half the price." Secretary Song crossed his arms and shook his head, then pulled the red curtain right in front of Young-woo. After that, he sat down at the table dejectedly and thought it was useless to expand the scope of practice. 30 minutes passed without anyone coming, 1 hour passed, then 2 hours passed without Young-woo doing anything. He sat down and thought gloomily, what the hell is expanding the scope of practice? It doesn't even exist anymore. Suddenly a person poked his head in, making Yang Wu jump. The purple shirt guy just popped his head in, waved an advertisement and said, "Can this coupon be used now?" On the advertisement, it was written that the first 100 people to arrive, fortune teller Beck's chance to change his life. He was 10 years old, the entrance fee was 1,000. Yang Wu was surprised and stunned, then nodded and replied, "Of course." In his mind, he thought, "What is that? Who did it for me? 1,001, that's it, there are still 100 people, are you kidding? Why bother? Maybe it's that crazy guy Song Tae-young." The guy in the purple shirt sat down when someone else popped in and asked if he came first and had priority. Yang Wu coughed softly and said, "Of course." He thought, just do it like always, do it like always. He held the other person's hand and said, "I'll read his palm first." Then people started coming in and out. Yang Wu was exhausted, supporting his head and crying, "Why did Song Tae-young distribute flyers like this?" Beck drank water and thought, "I'm too tired so I won't do it anymore, let's just do that today and go home." But at that moment, someone popped in and asked, not sure if there was a priority. Yang Wu spit all the water out. He said, "Please come in, you are the last one." He looked at the girl's hand opposite. She was crying. Yang Wu saw the girl sitting at her desk with 2 tall stacks of papers and other papers scattered around. One person said, "Has Assistant Lee finished all the documents? Is that the only thing that can't be done? Where's your company's work as well as mine? Since we're on the same team, it's fine to write just one name." Yang Wu turned around and thought, why does that man's voice sound so familiar? Suddenly the girl's eyes emitted a pink light and all the furniture rushed away. Yang Wu held his hand and thought, maybe I should see what his face looked like once. The man wearing glasses said he still wants to get off work so he can go home after finishing his job. Isn't Yoon Soo Han's company person appearing on TV? Yang Wu unconsciously squeezed the girl's hand. She said, "Hey, you said you could read your palm." Yang Wu said, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's too much, both the annoying forced work thing and the thing about writing names on the work that didn't even bother to be delivered." Yang Wu scratched his head and laughed, "I have mysterious powers." The girl asked, "Are you telling fortunes now?" Yang Wu said, "It seems that way, it will be resolved anyway, I will make this clear." The girl asked again, "With whom?" "Well, that's the person who lives with me." The girl said, "Well, the people who live with you in that direction are these people, right?" The girl thought of the gods and Buddhas. Yang Wu replied, "Ahaha, yes." Suddenly there was a large cushion of meat hitting the glass door. A black bear peeked its head in and said, "Let's play seriously, how cute." The employee bowed to greet Yang Wu inside. Outside, the big bear greeted the girl and then turned to glare at the buffalo with 3 lumps on its head next to it. Both of them were holding a brochure. While Yang Wu was bathing in the shower, suddenly 2 arms hugged him from behind. He raised his head to look at the person hugging him and was startled. Suhan said, "Let's take a bath together." Yang Wu replied, "Just take a shower, don't do anything else." "Why?" Yang Wu said, "I'm a little tired." Suhan rubbed the watermelon, kissed his lips and said, "I heard you stayed home all day, but are you still tired?" Finally he responded to him, took the initiative to kiss him and said, "No. It's a big deal, really." In the morning, Yang Wu lurked next to the electric pole, stalking the store. He went in and said, "Lucky, it seems there's no leaflet distribution today." His whole body was sore and he lay limp on the table. No matter what glory and wealth he enjoyed, Yang Wu blushed, that despicable Yoon Soo Han. Last night, Han Soo pressed Yang Wu on the bed and said, "I'm never mean, so just say it," Han Soo said while bullying Yang Wu. "You also met Tae-young today." Don't. If you're honest, I'll stop. I'll see you tomorrow too." End of story, Han Soo said, more persistent than I thought. Coming back from the memory, Yang Wu lowered his head and said with a red face, "Even so I still wanted to see him surprised." Yang Wu contentedly looked at the photo of a pair of silver rings on his phone. Yesterday he didn't earn much, today he has to earn more money. He worked from dawn to dusk, the 2 of them went out to talk to each other, he was really good. Yang Wu bowed his head and thought there were only 2 groups of guests all day. While he was collapsing, 2 more people came in. "Oh, what, are you doing business? You're still doing it, right?" Yang Wu happily said yes. The girl said, "There's construction going on outside, so I thought you were off." Yang Wu asked again, "Construction?" There was actually a construction sign outside and construction items blocked the door to the store. Yang Wu read the girl's palm, "So I'll check the girl's palm first." "Oh, it's not okay to show your darling's hand like this." "Haha." A zoo appeared in Yang Wu's head. He saw 2 people happily watching deer. It seemed very nice, but someone was too busy and I couldn't go. Suddenly Yoon Soo Han appeared next to him, put his hand on his shoulder and said, "What are you busy? Who is busy? It's been a long wait, right back, Yang Wu." Yang Wu blushed and looked up. "Yoon Soo Han," you hugged him tightly. "What about work? It's over." The two of them played every game in the park extremely happily. Suhan gave the cake and smiled at Yongwoo. Honey, let's eat churros with me. Ah, let's eat. The two each bit one end and then kissed passionately. Yongwoo looked very satisfied. The girl called Yongwoo awake. Brother, when are you planning to read your palm? He let go of the girl's hand and said now he had to read the guy's palm. The other boy said lovingly, don't be jealous, honey. Yongwoo saw him going out with a lot of people. He thought, this bastard probably can't be used anymore. Yongwoo suppressed his anger and said, Zoo, you two have already gone to the zoo. Do you have a plan to go? Do you plan to go to an amusement park or not? The girl replied, we're about to go. Don't tell us we'll have a big argument if we go to those places. Yongwoo's face darkened. How should I say this, okay? I don't know. Thinking about it, Yongwoo stood up and grabbed the boy's neck. This guy, what's wrong with him? This shameless bad guy. She broke up with this womanizer immediately and left. Huh. He looked panicked and started to explain. Let go, he was talking nonsense. What was wrong? Was he crazy or something? Yongwoo started shouting, in March it's Hei-he, in April it's Ju-he, in May it's Jisoo, and he also goes to the zoo and park. Have you seen how blatant this kid is? Girlfriend gets angry. Jisoo, huh? No, honey, he must be crazy. Yongwoo angrily shouted, go away, bad luck. Then he suddenly realized that he hadn't collected the money yet. Yongwoo had no choice but to drag himself home. How could he buy a gift like that? He didn't know that Suhan secretly pretended to be a bush and watched him. Wherever he went, I would follow. Suddenly Yongwoo noticed something. He immediately turned around. After seeing nothing he said, probably because of his mood. Yongwoo was sad. Yesterday Yoon Suhan didn't bother me. I slept very well. There was no leaflet distribution, no construction work. Today I will be very serious. He clenched his fists, his aura burning like fire. Suddenly Song Tae-young appeared outside. Baek Yongwoo. Yongwoo yelled, what else? It's been 3 days since today. Why are you still coming? Secretary Song was pushed aside by a hand and moved to the side. Suhan appeared in front of Yongwoo. He turned pale in surprise. Lightning exploded across his head. Suhan crossed his arms and sat in front of Yongwoo. He flinched. That I was going to tell you later. Suhan said, hey, fortune teller Baek, who gave me the right to do business in your building? He immediately put down the table and stood in front of Yongwoo. He rattled his brain and said he didn't know. Suhan pinched his face and said, running a business in such a prime location and not paying rent is not robbery. Yongwoo cried out, pain. Yongwoo said with a swollen face, what a prime location, business is not good. Suhan smiled faintly. There must have been someone coming during construction. Yongwoo weakly argued, what's wrong with construction, huh? He suddenly saw Secretary Song take out a hat and a construction cap, then a flyer and a cowl hat. Yongwoo shouted, Song Tae-young, this traitor. He immediately ran away. Suhan stopped Yongwoo and said, pay me the rent for these 3 days. Yongwoo said, I spread leaflets and only received 1,000 won in front of the construction site. Suhan bent down, grabbed Yongwoo's small waist, gently lifted his shirt, kissed his stomach, then gradually kissed down. Yongwoo was embarrassed and punched his shoulder. It was over. Hey, it was all because of Yoon Suhan. He hugged him and said, I'm sorry. Yongwoo sat on the sofa with a sad face. Suhan sat down next to Baek Yongwoo. He hugged him, his head resting on his shoulder. Because it's my first date, I'm not very observant, so please be generous and forgive me for once. Yongwoo pointed his finger and said, I'd rather just stay angry. You go get angry at that person. Suhan raised his head and looked in the direction Yongwoo pointed. He said the person on TV was an evil person who stole other people's efforts. Suhan said he will find out. Yongwoo stood up and for now everyone had a room with stupid Yoon Suhan. Suhan is sad. What if Suhan changed jobs with Yongwoo? Baek Yongwoo, vice president of Daekyung Group, and Yoon Suhan, who has the superpower to see dreams. 1. First meeting. Suhan was undressing when a box of clothes fell down. He told his brother, I picked it up for him, and then their hands touched. Suhan said, thank you. 2. First impression. Yongwoo thought, so handsome. Suhan thought, well, it's cute. Suddenly he saw Yongwoo's dream. 3. Yongwoo's dream. I only saw him eating a lot of delicious food, taking a bath, drinking luxurious wine, and driving a supercar to the beach. Suhan nodded and thought, I don't need help. 4. Great. Suhan tells Yongwoo that he actually has a great ability. You asked him, what is it? He said if he touches the other person's body, he can see the dream. Oh great, if you want, you can swallow Baek Yongwoo's nightmare. Yongwoo continued to chant, wow, that's great, okay, that's great. 5. More stimulating than I thought. Suhan said, the closer the better. Yongwoo hugged him and kissed him. Why did he have to be closer? After that, he struggled to take off all his clothes. Suhan says, no, hey wait. Because I'm too fast. 6. Cohabitation. Yangwoo brought Suhan home. First of all, you keep living here with me. He gave him a shiny yellow card and said, if you need anything, just swipe this card, then I'll go to work and come home. Suhan looked at the messy house and thought, is it a house for people to live in? 7. Superpower Maid 1. Suhan sweeps the house clean, washes clothes and cooks carefully, then sits comfortably on the sofa. Should have been a maid. 8. Superpower Maid 2. I'm home. Yangwoo came home from work and saw that the house was clean and shiny. His eyes sparkled and he told Suhan to drink coffee and sit on the chair. Could it be his superpower? Doing housework, it's great. He said, no. That's not a superpower. 9. Hoodie t-shirt. Why do you wear a hoodie every day? Suhan replied, because wearing this shirt his face could not be seen clearly. Yangwoo thought, narcissistic personality disorder is no joke. He took him to the store, raised his card and said, get all the shirts by type for me. 10. Handsome. So handsome, handsome, so handsome. Yangwoo has to exclaim every time Suhan changes an outfit. Well, just bring it back. He pulled up the hood of his hoodie so I thought only you could see it. 11. A meaningful day. Yangwoo works hard. Director at a subsidiary. Yangwoo agreed, well, let's do it like that. New project of the project team, wow, let's do it tonight. After a day, Yangwoo stretched and yawned, there's too much work today, I'm so tired, I got off work earlier. Secretary Song sat at his desk crying, who did the work? Here, Secretary Song is suffering. When Yangwoo got home, he lay down on the bed, he was so tired. He hugged Suhan, rubbed his head on his body and said, I'm so tired today. He asked, Secretary Song didn't help you. He replied, he didn't help, he even gave him homework. Yangwoo grumbled at him. Suhan glanced at the pile of documents. He said, then let me help you. Mr. Yoon Suhan, if you can help me, it would be good for you, wouldn't it? Yangwoo's eyes sparkled with starlight, please help me organize the documents. Suhan said, so let's kiss first and then start. He pointed to his lips and smiled. Yangwoo blushed, he just wanted to be kissed, that's all. Suhan said, if you don't like it, that's fine. Yangwoo kissed him on the lips, who said he didn't like it. Suhan carried the stack of documents away. He accepted the kiss, followed by Yangwoo, who was cheering. A text message arrived. Yangwoo cried, oh, here it is again, homework. Suhan said, please help me with that. Wow, really? Yangwoo trotted over and pouted, he didn't know. This time Suhan reached out to stop him. This time he was not allowed to kiss. He took off his tie and unbuttoned his shirt. Suhan pushed Yangwoo onto the bed, making him just bewildered. He put on his swimsuit and shouted, wait, this is not my dream, why is it lying there? It turned out that Suhan was telling Yangwoo a story. The two of them were now sitting on the bed embracing each other. Suhan said, because the ending was not good, he added a little more. He turned his head and clasped his hands, don't be a pervert, I don't understand why it passed so strangely. Oh, take it off again. Suhan pulled Yangwoo's cloak down and whispered in his ear, although it's different from what I imagined, your superpowers are real. Yangwoo said, what nonsense are you talking about? You can see the future, wait 30 minutes, I will beg you to let me in quickly. Suhan slid his hand down along Yangwoo's stomach. He shouted, what kind of superpower is that? Suhan laughed, bet not. I thought you would do it for sure, but you didn't. In the parking garage, getting out of the car, Yangwoo wore sunglasses and turned the car key while singing, looking very happy. Suddenly he heard a cat meowing, he stopped singing, took off his glasses and looked everywhere, muttering while searching, clearly hearing something. Discovering that there was a calico cat crawling under the car, he suddenly shouted, shyly saying, hello. The cat meowed in response, surprising him. It was the first time I said hello to a cat. From that moment on, the cat kept following him. He looked and wondered why it kept following him. The door of the building opened and the cat was about to go in when he shouted, you can't go in. The cat rubbed its muzzle on Yangwoo's finger, then lay on its belly for him to touch. He touched it and thought, it's so cute, but is the cat already in the garage? He thought to himself that he would have to ask the caretakers to help him when the elevator door opened. The cat jumped up and wanted to get in. He asked, are you going to take the elevator? Standing with the cat in the elevator, he looked at it and thought, is it hungry? When he got to the room and opened the door, he saw that the cat was also about to come in. He asked it, even though it wasn't possible, do you want to come in? The cat looked at him and then meowed innocently, making him unable to resist its cuteness. Yangwoo opened the door to let him in, telling him, come in quickly, I'll go find if there's anything for you to eat. He rummaged around the kitchen and asked her, do you want to eat chicken breast? You poured the food on the plate and asked him to eat again, saying I secretly let you eat Yoon Suhan's food, you really have to leave after eating this, you know. Seeing it eat it all, he was a bit surprised and asked it to go away. The cat licked young Woo's finger again. He couldn't stand it. His voice trembled and said, "It's so cute, but it's really not okay. This is not my house. Go out alone, okay?" The cat crawled under the sofa again. He tried to advise it. "It didn't work. You have to go. I'll ask the parking garage guard to help you." Suddenly Soo-han appeared and asked for something. He suddenly asked, when did he come back? He hugged him again and kissed him on the temple, replying that he just got back. "What are you doing here? Is there something down there?" He was about to hide it when he looked down at the sofa and picked up the cat, asking, "What is this?" The cat didn't like this move, so it scratched his cheek and jumped down. Young-woo yelled, "You can't pull it out like that." Soo-han asked, "You bring home whatever you like." He explained, "No, this thing, he just followed me from the parking garage." I sighed, "Just follow along and you'll just bring it home without any planning." He said weakly, "Because it looked quite hungry, so I was just going to give it some food." He continued, gave him food and told him to leave the house. Listen very well too. Young-woo started sobbing because he felt so sorry. Soo-han sighed again, "No matter what, huh?" He looked at him with sparkling eyes. "Are you angry?" "I'm not angry." He asked again, so it was uncomfortable. He replied, "Not uncomfortable." He continued asking, "Are you going to kiss my cheek if I feel uncomfortable?" He answered immediately, "Don't kiss my cheek, kiss my lips." The two brothers asked each other a question. The cat looked at them with extreme contempt. Young-woo spoke again, but he said he was not upset, but Soo-han replied calmly. He originally intended to say that he was not uncomfortable. He blushed and smiled, puckering his lips and coming closer to kiss him. Suddenly Tae-young opened the door to speak. "One file fell out, so I brought it in and saw the other two kissing passionately." He quickly put the documents up to cover his face, said, "Ha, there it is again," then collapsed to the ground and lamented, "Obviously I brought it in and then came out again. Next time don't look for me again." Suddenly he heard a cat meowing and realized that the cat was looking at him. Soo-han broke away from the kiss with his lover and asked him, "What is this? Why are you still here?" Tae-young smiled darkly and answered him, "No, it just naturally had a cat." He lay face down on the floor, touching the cat and saying, "You're so chubby, the cat is so cute." Even though it pushed it away with his foot with an extremely hateful expression, he still stubbornly picked it up and turned it around, laughing and making meaningless sounds. "I love it so much, tun dun, a choo-choo." Young-woo was surprised that he liked cats so much. Soo-han replied boredly that if he couldn't keep them, he would cause chaos. Suddenly Tae-young remembered and asked where did this could bring him from. He squatted down and replied, "In the parking garage, what's wrong?" He looked at the cat and said, "Something is strange." Soo-han also sat down and asked, "What?" Tae-young looked closely at the cat and wondered, could it be? Young-woo asked, "What to do now?" The cat walked out of the cage, jumped onto his lap while he was sitting on the sofa and wagged its tail. Soo-han asked, "Are you planning on keeping it forever?" Then he saw two sparkling eyes of a human and a cat staring at him. He continued, "Even if he looked like that." Suddenly Tae-young brought a stack of books and said, "Now is not the time to sit like that." He told Young-woo, "A person brought a cat into the house without any plan." He justified it because it was hungry and cried and followed me. Then he continued talking to Soo-han, who was impressed with a distant view of animals. He angrily replied, "What?" He continued, "Why should the reserve mother cat have to accept the help of these people?" He proudly pointed to himself, "Cat lovers like me will also join in, be prepared for everything." Rank. Soo-han pointed at him, "Don't interfere, get out." Tae-young smiled despicably. He couldn't go. He looked at Baek Young-woo. He looked over and saw that both man and cat were seriously listening. Young-woo even took out a pen and paper to take notes. I don't know where Tae-young got the graduation cap, put it on his head and said, "Let's begin." Then there is the teaching and learning process of 3 people. Young-woo makes a cat nest, Soo-han makes a fishing rod toy to attract cats, and Tae-young orders a batch of cat food and supplies. Young-woo and Soo-han opened the box, then fed the cat a delicious meal. At night, while Young-woo was sleeping, he felt uncomfortable. He muttered, "Why was he so uncomfortable?" Then he opened his eyes and saw the cat sleeping on his stomach. He asked it startled, "When did you climb up here to sleep?" The cat seemed to be asleep, so it only moved a little. He heard it purring and exclaimed, "But cats also talk in their sleep, it's really miraculous." "You call it Yawoon, what are you dreaming about? Let me see." He was about to reach out to touch it but suddenly stopped, thinking of his promise from before, "I won't see other people's dreams anymore, I promise." Soo-han was still sleeping soundly. He thought to himself, "It's a cat, not a person, he doesn't even know if he can see it." Then he touched its head. He saw the sky gradually turn gloomy, a drop of water fell and touched the cat's nose. He saw the rain pouring down when he crawled under the trees and looked out into the distance. He saw it looking for something. Someone approached it and then it left. Ran away, saw it was scratched and injured by a black cat. Hearing the voice calling Baek Young-woo, he suddenly woke up and discovered that tears had fallen from his eyes. Soo-han sat up and asked him what's wrong, but he cried and didn't answer. He came closer and asked, "What's wrong with you?" He was crying and talking intermittently, so pitiful. He asked, "Did you see his dream?" He turned to hug his neck. Soo-han continued, "I promise not to see the dream. Why, wait, I'll go get you some water." Soo-han poured a glass of water, brought it in and gave it to him and said, "Then why did you bring the cat home?" Then saw him sitting in the cat litter box that was delivered earlier. I asked, "You sat in there again?" He was also confused and didn't understand why. He hesitated for a while before answering, that of course I want to come sit here." Soo-han said, "Anyway, I'll let it go for today. If you ever arbitrarily look at other people's dreams again, I'll scold you, I promised." He retorted in a low voice, saying it was not a human dream but a cat's. Seeing the water in the glass, Young-woo suddenly put his head down on the glass, making him surprised and asked, "What are you doing?" He looked up, confused and said, "Oh no, I'm just going to drink water," and thought to myself, "What's wrong with me?" He rubbed his forehead and asked, "Do you feel sorry for him that he cried and sweated like this?" Then he held his hand and continued, "If he keeps sleeping like that, he will have nightmares again. Go and pour some water. Let's get over it." He asked bewilderedly, "Why are you coming with me?" Soo-han replied, "Just going to flush the water, so don't be too disappointed." He quickly objected, "I didn't do anything." Arriving at the bathroom, he suddenly ran to hug the mirror. He asked, "What's wrong with you? Did you do something strange?" He worriedly said, "No, he said to take a bath. Why did he do that?" Soo-han came and hugged him from behind and said, "Baek Young-woo is really a bad boy. He really just took a bath. You cried so much, I just wanted to take a bath." He slid his hand in front of him, pushed his t-shirt up for him and said, "You're really sharp-eyed today. Are you trying not to come in?" He blushed and replied, "It's not like that." The two of them were close to each other and were about to kiss, but he covered his mouth, saying, "What are you planning on doing after waking up? You have to go to work tomorrow." Soo-han frowned and thought, "What is that? It's deja vu." He sullenly picked up the shower head and said, "I was just going to kiss you. Do you hate it that much?" He hugged his arm and said, "No, I don't hate you really." He continued, "Whatever, just take a shower." Young-woo shivered when he saw the water shooting out of the shower. He turned and said, "After bathing comfortably, you will sleep well," but he was nowhere to be seen. He wiped his hands, walked out of the bathroom and said sadly, "Baek Young-woo, do you know how strange you have been until now?" Finally, before he could finish his sentence, he saw him trembling under the blanket, only showing his face. He looked out and said, "I won't take a bath." He was confused and called Baek Young-woo. Tae-young got angry and shouted, "Yoon Soo-han is good as an older brother. Is he good as vice president? 30 minutes until work time and today you said you want to take a break. Can you believe it? Huh? What else? What is this form?" Soo-han sat haggardly on the sofa. He supported his forehead and said it was something like that. He remembered all kinds of strange actions of Young-woo yesterday. He asked, "Mr. Baek Young-woo, why did you climb up there in the end when you saw me climbing to the top of the cabinet? I asked you, didn't you sleep when I saw you racing noisily with the cat? I asked you what you were doing all along. What are you doing when you see him writhing and crawling on the floor, even flying straight at him?" He concluded that from yesterday until now there was something strange about him. Tae-young saw him lying across Soo-han's lap and agreed. "I also found it strange, like I knew what was going on." He asked in surprise, as if he already knew. Tae-young took off his tie and swayed it in front of Young-woo's eyes and said, "Mr. Baek Young-woo, look over here." Seeing him rush up to catch him, he said, "Sure enough, this was a long time ago. That's right, it couldn't be both." He concluded that hating water, running loudly at night, and everything else were the actions of cats. He asked in surprise, "Little cats, so what could it be?" Soo-han frowned and told him, "See, I told you not to look at the dream." Tae-young put his tie back on and asked, "Anyway, you mean you can't go to work looking like that?" Soo-han replied, "That's not why I quit." He asked, "Well, then why did you quit?" He replied in a dignified manner, "Because he was so adorable that I didn't want to leave him behind." This answer made Tae-young yell at me, "Are you kidding me?" Finally, Soo-han works from home. Young-woo asked while waving his fishing rod to lure the cat, but really, why did he want to rest? He replied that it was because Baek Young-woo was so adorable that he didn't want to leave him there. He pouted, "I see dreams, so you don't like it." He said, "Baek Young-woo, if you don't have anything in your mind that belongs to someone else, then it's good, whether it's a dream or anything else." He argued again, "He's not a human, he's a cat," and I replied, "So I'll forgive you, but you still continue to stay here." Only then did Young-woo realize that he had climbed into Soo-han's lap. He was surprised and asked, "Why are you here?" He replied, isn't that also the action of the cats, bothering me so I can't do that. Youngwoo turned around and hugged him, crying and apologizing. Please bear with it a little. Even though there is no afterglow, it will be okay. Suhan said even if there was an after effect, it would be interesting. He learned a little about cats. After saying that, he patted his waist and slid his hand down to pat his peach. He was startled and asked in surprise, what did he suddenly do? Suhan calmly said, I heard that cats like to pat peaches like this. What do you think? He blushed and said, feeling very strange. He asked again, just found it strange. Youngwoo was about to ask him to wait a bit, but Suhan continued, the sense of touch of cats is also very sharp. The cat Baek Youngwoo saw what he saw, then put his hand into his pants, making him jump. Looking at his red face, he said, looking at his expression made him even more curious. After the exercise session, Suhan waved his catfishing rod in front of Youngwoo. He waved his hand and pushed it away, saying again, it's not an echo, I'm not a cat. He sighed, what a pity, it disappeared faster than he thought. He sullenly questioned how many times had he used that excuse in the past few days. He smiled and asked, aren't you sleeping anyway? The two of them sat and looked at the cat sleeping on the mattress. He said it had been a bit strange since the day, so maybe I had to watch it again. He asked, are you planning to look at it all night? He replied, that's it for now. Taeyong's phone rang. There was an incoming call from Youngwoo. He groped for his phone, got out from under the blanket to answer the call. Mr. Baek Youngwoo, what's wrong with you at this hour? The other party said something that made him get up immediately. Come here, don't take your eyes off the cat, wait for me to come right away. The cat has given birth to 3 kittens. Both Youngwoo and Taeyong were moved to tears. He said, it's been so hard, meow. Taeyong sobbed, really touched. Suhan calmly sat on the sofa and asked, now decide, Mr. Baek Youngwoo, what to do with the cat. The other two criticized him for being unlucky and not observant. Taeyong patted Youngwoo's shoulder to comfort him. It's true, when living with a pet, asking for sympathy from the person living with you is basic. He choked up sadly and replied, I know that's the case, but... Then he put on his apron and suggested, so now let's make cat food, completely ignoring Suhan's screams, don't ask for my sympathy. Youngwoo explained to him, it hasn't been long since he gave birth, so he can't kick him out right now, okay? Suhan said it firmly, even after a long time after its birth, I still have no intention of sending it away. This sentence spoke right to his heart, so Youngwoo averted his eyes and asked sadly, even so, we must chase it away, can't we raise it? He replied firmly, yes. He was surprised and appeared happy. Really, can you really raise him? Suhan said, if you want to raise it, then raise it. Suddenly Taeyong appeared to reason. Something was strange. It seemed like there was some conspiracy. Suhan said very calmly, of course I do, I'll let you raise him instead. Don't open a strange part-time shop to sneak me out to work part-time and take good care of the cat. Youngwoo criticizes, it's too cruel, you're petty really. Suhan pretended to be sulky, if you don't like it then I'll just accept it, it makes you crazy. No, it's not that he doesn't like it. He smiled brightly, thank you anyway, I will take good care of them. He looked at him and blushed and asked, will you love me too? Youngwoo ran to hug him, what are you saying? Of course you have to prioritize Yoon Suhan first. Suhan kissed his face and asked, better than a cat, he replied immediately. The two sweetly expressed their feelings, only the suffering Taeyong had to endure. He said, even if his heart was fluttering, if he raised them, give them a name. He suggested, the gray one's name is Alexander, the orange one's name is Elizabeth, the calico one's name is Isabel, the mother cat's name is Victoria. He asked, what do you see or not? Suhan didn't say anything and Youngwoo criticized him directly, no, there's nothing good about it. He asked, so Baek Youngwoo tried it. He named the gray kid Dong Huni, the orange kid named Seo Yoni, the calico kid named Ji Hyuni, and the mother cat Su Jini with the hope that the name would be favorable and have good luck. Taeyong was shocked, what's wrong, it's exactly the same as your name. Youngwoo held up the naming expert book and said, so what, I did a lot of research before naming them. The two of them looked at Suhan, he was speechless and asked, can't we just name them roughly? If there are 3 kittens, I can give each one their own last name, Yuni, Baeki, Sanji, the mother cat is Mio, okay? Or not? Youngwoo and Taeyong criticized him again, wow, he's so careless, without any sincerity at all. Then the two of them argued again about whether to take the name Dong Hoon or Alexander. Then Youngwoo said, then let Su Jin decide for himself. Taeyong agreed, okay, let Victoria choose the name he likes. All 3 of them gave the snack bar for the mother cat to choose from. The other 2 were very excited. They only needed to taste it a little to confirm it. They couldn't take it back. And Suhan wondered why I had to do this. The cat looked at the 3 food bars, thought to kick this annoying person and then licked the food bar in Suhan's hand. Both Youngwoo and Taeyang were exhausted and collapsed. Youngwoo said sadly, Sujin, I was thinking all night. As for Taeyang, he lamented, isn't Victoria good? He knew that and chose Kate instead. Suhan said, the names you guys gave were so strange that I had to choose mine. Youngwoo asked, he felt proud anyway, but he immediately objected. He asked again, aren't the cats cute? Tell me the truth. He shook his head and said Baek Youngwoo was cuter. He grinned, he changed the subject again. I'm trying to avoid it, are you planning on letting the cat go hungry again? Hearing that, Taeyang immediately got up and went to make food, while Suhan secretly touched Mio Mio's head. A month later, Youngwoo came home and saw that Suhan had come home first. He said, you're back so early, I was about to call because I was in a hurry. He suddenly discovered that he was lying on the sofa with a blanket watching his iPad with several cats nesting on him. He whispered, this is a human-shaped cat tower. You came to rub your face with me, the cats are being naughty and you don't mind. He smiled and replied, it's okay, I think thanks to the kids, Baek Youngwoo will be less bored. He laughed, there's no time to get bored, they just stick to me all the time. He said, while chasing and teasing them, I was busy keeping my eyes and nose dark. The two gently kissed each other again. While lying in bed about to sleep, Youngwoo said, thinking back, this was the first time he helped someone without having to swallow his dream. Suhan asked him if he felt proud. He smiled and said, yes, extremely proud and happy. He continued, thanks to you, I also feel happy, I will make you even happier. The two of them were about to kiss when they heard the sound of scratching the door continuously. He said it must be the cats. The two of them intended to leave it alone, he said, if they didn't open the door they would probably leave, but the rustling sound didn't stop so Suhan had to go down and open the door. He said, no matter what, we have to rethink how to educate them without having to chase them away. He said, I'm sorry, maybe I should watch the cats' dreams one more time and see if they like it. I just said I told you not to watch anymore. The two of them went to sleep together with 4 cats. Suhan threw his jacket on the bed, talked to Youngwoo on the phone. I'm sorry, I intended to call you earlier, but I just got back to the hotel now. On the other end of the line, Youngwoo said, Yoon Suhan, aren't you on a business trip for too long? What about work? He sat down on the chair, picked up the iPad to look at it, and said he would just finish the job as usual. He said, you must be very busy, you're still doing the rest, right? He replied, no, he was hearing Baek Youngwoo's voice. He continued, so just tell me, what will I do tomorrow? He replied, finishing work and preparing to go home. Over here, Youngwoo sat on the bed playing with the cat, asking me, I'll be home the day after tomorrow, bring a gift. Suhan asked, do you want anything? He lay face down on the bed and said, I don't need anything, I just want to see you. He said seriously, don't say that to me because I will want to go home immediately. He laughed. He added that he actually wanted to kiss him too. Suhan on the other side asked, do you just want to kiss? I want to do something else. Youngwoo asked curiously, I'll say something else, if I say it, will you do it? He smiled and replied, my Suhanee Hyung, say whatever you want to do. He asked again, what did you just call me? And he repeated, Suhanee Hyung. He asked him to call again. He obediently called and asked why he kept making me call. He said he felt excited because he heard the address that he did not think he would hear. He laughed, why are you so excited? I didn't say anything naughty. Suhan said, in fact, Baek Youngwoo would not be able to say such words. He was so embarrassed that he became angry and asked again, no, I can't call, do you think I don't dare to call? Suhan encouraged him, so please call. He said, Suhanee Hyung, I want to kiss you. Suhan couldn't answer truthfully, which made him angry. He called again, Suhanee Hyung, I want to do that with you. Suhan smiled softly and asked, Youngwoo, what is that? He answered, it's what you went in there. After a hot conversation on the phone, Youngwoo gasped and said he liked it when he heard Suhan ask if he liked it. He asked how much he liked it and he replied that he didn't know. He mumbled, but now I don't want to do it anymore. I'm sleepy. Then he turned off the phone. Seeing that the call had ended, he said it wasn't even 10 o'clock yet and he was already sleepy. The next morning, while dreaming, Youngwoo thought he was a cat boy. He said, Mio Mio, don't lick that place. When he heard a voice, I chased Mio Mio out, so don't worry. He dreamily asked, aren't you Mio Mio? Suhan replied, you did better than Mio Mio, right? He was startled and asked Yoon Suhan, was it a dream? Suhan pulled out his tie and said, just call it a dream. Baek Youngwoo also dreams like that. Let's call Suhanee Hyung. He was surprised. Why did you come back today and not tomorrow? Then comes the start of a new morning exercise session. Youngwoo was now lying dazed on the bed, thinking that he would eventually disappear with him. Yuhan gradually moved closer to him, kindly asking, are you tired? He replied indignantly, so you don't feel tired? Seeing the discomfort on his face, Han admitted, "I'm sorry, it's been a few days since I last saw your face, so I'm very happy." Hearing the explanation, Young-woo was not much more comfortable. He sighed and silently blamed him for behaving extremely despicably. At this moment, he remembered the previous moment. He turned to Young-woo and said, "Try calling Soo-hae-hyung again." He panically replied, "Maybe it's because he's addicted to work that he leaves early, oh no." Han now sat up, looked at Young-woo and continued to repeat the request, "Soo-hae-hyung, call Young-woo." His face was now red and he quickly responded to his request, Soo-hae-hyung. He brought his face closer to him and praised him, "So good." Young-woo now exclaimed in panic. He called, "Now stop." The despicable Han replied in a light tone. He didn't say he would stop. After hearing his answer, Young-woo angrily shouted, "Yoon-soo Han, this bad guy." He felt angry and uncomfortable when recalling those moments. Moreover, that was not all. There were other hot moments that appeared in Young-woo's mind. Han did not keep his promise. He tried to exercise with him many times while he was very tired. Han seemed to realize his discomfort, so he lay close to him, hugged him from behind, and said, "Why would someone provoke him to his heart's content and then immediately fall asleep?" As soon as he finished speaking, he started touching him again. "You spoke up in discomfort, don't? But I still try to convince, just a little." Just like a small accomplishment, Young-woo's anger also exploded. He angrily kicked him away, screaming. He said, "Don't." Then, before his bewildered eyes like a golden deer, he took a pillow and arranged it neatly to form a fence separating the two people's beds. The pillow rampart was completed. Young-woo calmly turned his back to sleep and reminded him, "I'm sleeping here, don't roll over there." Han frantically convinced him of his decision. "You were already planning to sleep. We met again after a week. This time, we weren't even able to call often. It's been a long time since I've been home." He had tears in his eyes and replied angrily, "So I said I would wait for you." He heard that and gently replied, "Is that so? Thank you." The more he talked, the angrier he became. He continued to tell Han all his feelings. After he returned from his business trip, he would be busy for a while, so I planned to go to the airport to pick him up and have dinner together to see his face. "Talk like that." Young-woo continued to say with tears in his eyes, "Don't work too hard, eat a lot of delicious food, and then go home. What did you do before going to bed alone at night?" I was about to say those words, but I just called. Then, Han seemed to suddenly understand his mistake, so he comforted him, "Baek Young-woo, let's do that tomorrow, let's have dinner together, then have a good look at each other, then talk some more." He still angrily replied, "I have to go to work." Han still smiled and replied he would return soon. Hearing that, Young-woo sat up and curiously asked, "Secretary Song said that?" He continued to explain, "Isn't Tae Yoonji the secretary, and he's the vice president? Whatever he says, that's what he has to do." Without saying much more, he immediately picked up the phone and called Han's secretary to see if Yoon-soo Han could get off work early tomorrow. From the phone came a shrill scream, "Definitely not, what are you talking about? It's better to fire me, these bastards." Hang up. Han heard the secretary's words and immediately confusedly explained to him, "I will find a way to spend time with you." He no longer wanted to hear any more words, turned around and told him to go away. Han now thought to himself, this is an urgent situation. The next morning, seeing the strange scene in front of him, Secretary Yang exclaimed in confusion, "Can someone explain to me what this situation is about?" Hearing the secretary's confusion, he replied that he didn't know, just looking at it, going to work, nothing more. The panicked secretary pointed at Young-woo who was standing next to him and asked, "No, what's wrong with Baek Young-woo?" Han now brightened up and happily answered, not wanting to leave him home alone. The secretary was extremely upset at this point, grabbed his collar and shook him back and forth, blaming him, "Is the company a joke? Is it a joke?" He then tried his best to whisper and explain to the secretary, "Let it go for once, it was very serious now." Secretary Yang cried silently and replied, "Mr. Vice President, if a husband and wife quarrel, it's okay to end it at home." Han was at a loss now. Knowing his secretary's hobby, he set a condition, "I will be away from home on D-Day so you can play with the cats as much as you like." Secretary Yang's heart suddenly fluttered with excitement, remembering the lovely cats, exclaiming, "D-Day, could it be that day?" Immediately, the secretary changed his face 180 degrees, politely put his arm around Young-woo's shoulder and spoke, If that's the case then there's no other way, let's go, Mr. Baek Young-woo will late." He looked towards Han, complaining, "I said I would stay home." He quickly came closer and put his arm around his shoulder to comfort him, "Come with him, he will be by Baek Young-woo's side all day." At the company right now, Young-woo stepped into such a luxurious and beautiful place for the first time and couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow." Then he went to his desk and asked confusedly, "At home it's very neat, but why is it so chaotic here?" Han was confused by the sudden action of turning him around and looking straight into his eyes, hesitantly speaking, "What's wrong?" I asked sincerely at this time, "Are you still very angry?" He slightly lowered his eyes, turned away, and whispered back, "I'm not angry." After that, Youngwoo quickly came next to Secretary Yang and asked, "Who watered this tree?" The secretary saw that the situation was not good, so he glanced at him to see what he meant, hesitantly answering his question, "Oh, that." Han's heart breathed a sigh of relief at this moment. He was almost discovered. Youngwoo sat in a chair, boringly flying a paper airplane into the air. After saying goodbye to him, Han and the secretary gradually walked down the hallway. He spoke first, having to delay a bit. Not understanding what he meant, the secretary asked again, "What?" He went on to say, "That preparation." After hearing this, the secretary angrily exclaimed, "Postpone everything, he's not that angry." Han explained it was impossible to do it in this atmosphere. The secretary continued to grumble, "I knew right from the moment he was trying to force me to come early every day." Han replied quietly, after all, he had to deal with the whole thing. After hearing this, the secretary trembled in panic. What was to be done? The plan was already 3 months old. He still spoke back without emotion. He probably had to increase the scale further. Baek Young-woo would definitely be very surprised. It wouldn't work like this. He was extremely serious at this moment. When both of them were in the elevator about to go home, he asked, "How you feel today? Very bored, right?" Hearing that, he quickly denied, "No, it's fun. I find it very magical." Seeing that he was happier, he freely replied, "It's lucky if you were a little less angry then." Youngwoo saw that and interrupted, "I told you I'm not angry." Han immediately became sad. Until he got in the car, he was still in a gloomy mood. He felt the atmosphere and his mood, so he sighed and exclaimed, "Wow, really?" This time, it was Youngwoo who placed a light kiss on his lips while gently coaxing him. "I'm not angry, Yoon-soo Han." He showed his affection and immediately asked back, "So can you accept my invitation to go on a date?" He wondered, dating, why do you have to do that? He continued to ask, "Could you come to the company next Friday night?" He was curious about his question, "Why is the company?" He just smiled and excitedly answered, "You'll know when you come." He looked thoughtfully out the car window, thinking that something was suspicious. In front of his eyes was a super large line of cheesy pink letters, "I love you," running on a high-rise building, sparkling so brightly that it was blinding. He understood, no wonder I kept feeling strange. Before he could recover, a super luxury car with many seats parked right in front of where he stood. Youngwoo could only scream, "What is this again?" The driver was Secretary Yang. He was also sweating profusely and said to him, "It's ridiculous, right?" "I understand, just driving makes it seem ridiculous." He immediately leaned in and asked the secretary, "What is this car? What is this? What is he trying to do?" At this time, from afar, Han suddenly appeared. A gallant, elegant, and handsome man in a checkered suit spoke up, "Mr. Baek Young-woo." He was startled and shouted loudly, "Ah." Seeing his expression with the scene before him, he curiously asked, "Why don't you like him like this?" He immediately shook his head vigorously, silently exclaiming, "Oh my God, he's so handsome and I'm so surprised." He gently suggested, let's go on a date." Then, looking up at the open car door, he was extremely confused and asked him where he was going, secretly thinking about going this way. He very excitedly hugged his shoulder, whispering that he had prepared places that Baek Young-woo likes, "So don't worry, you will definitely be satisfied." In the large aquarium, schools of colorful fish were swimming around in the tank. Han hugged him from behind and admired the beautiful scene. Youngwoo spoke in panic. If anyone recognized Vice President Yoon-soo Han, it would be a big deal. He still hugged him, gently replied, "No exercise happened because he stopped anyone from entering." When he heard that, he was surprised and asked again, "Did he cover all of this already?" Hearing his question, he just laughed and denied that there was no way. He exhaled, calmed himself, and sighed. Before he could relax more, he heard him continue, "It's just a buy-off. If you want to go on a date, feel free to come." Han then took out a piece of paper and held it in front of Young-woo, proudly explaining, "Well, now I'm also working hard, so don't scold me." Seeing the paper in his hand, he could only widen his eyes and was shocked. After that, he maintained his shocked state and went to feed the penguins with fish. He stood next to me and always clapped and cheered endlessly. Until he walked out of the ocean world wearing a penguin hat and holding a teddy bear shaped like a penguin. Roof. He and his brother moved to the restaurant again. As soon as they passed, there was immediately a line of people standing and bowing. He noticed the deserted space of the restaurant and couldn't help but curiously ask, "Why is there no one like this? Could it be that you bought this place too?" He still kept that lovely face and replied, "Hey, I don't exercise." After hearing that, he sat back in his seat and breathed a sigh of relief, so lucky. And just like last time, he made shocking statements behind the scenes, this place is mine, so you can rest assured. He looked in shock at the luxurious food in front of him, even the moment when he and Han held a shiny glass of wine and drank very romantically. But after experiencing all these surprises one after another, sitting in front of the Han River Bridge, he was once again speechless. Because now right in front of him was a giant yacht appearing. Going inside, he was shocked to see that the person driving the boat was none other than Secretary Yang. Seeing the two secretaries, Yang only asked Han sadly, because of this, are you forcing me to get a yacht driver's license? He also replied briefly, yes. Surprisingly, the whole party was prepared in advance and decorated very luxuriously with a bunch of balloons, a bouquet of beautiful roses, and a huge love cake. Then there was the moment when two people stood in front of the yacht taking in the romantic wind like the scene on the Titanic. And then fireworks filled the sky. All of this was carefully prepared by him, so he was extremely excited to ask Youngwoo, how was the date, did you like it? He still couldn't adapt to so many shocks happening continuously, so he instinctively responded, haha. He didn't realize it but still happily explained that to make Baek Youngwoo calm down, preparing this much was worth it. He looked at his shining eyes and replied, I'm not angry at all, really, anyway, let's go home now. Han then continued to say, let's just go to one more place, okay? He seemed to understand his intentions and shouted in panic. Han lowered his voice sadly. As expected, he still hasn't gotten over his anger, so if he doesn't want to go anymore then that's fine. Seeing him so sad, he immediately denied it and ran towards the car. Nowhere, let's go, I'm going. After that, he sat down tiredly in the back seat. He looked at him and gently reminded him, you can get some sleep. Youngwoo turned and replied, no, I'm not tired. Han still enthusiastically persuaded him, I learned this from Baek Youngwoo, I want to surprise you so you just go to sleep, I will wake you up when I get there. He smiled and responded to my request, I know, so let's take a nap. The car now stopped in front of a bridge facing the sea. Unfastening his seatbelt, Han called Youngwoo who was sleeping next to him, I'm here. He rubbed his eyes and slowly woke up. Before his eyes was the sunrise on the sea, extremely beautiful and peaceful with the whispering sound of the waves. Youngwoo could only exclaim, this place. The two people got out of the car and stood on the bridge looking out to sea. At this time, Han turned to ask Youngwoo, do you know where this is? He looked down and responded excitedly, it was impossible not to realize that he had been to this place with his mother, this was also the place that appeared in his dream. Han heard that and continued to respond, actually this was the first time I came to this place, maybe because your dream was so vivid, so familiar, as if I had been here many times before. He exclaimed and turned to ask Han again, how did he find this place? He looked into the distance and thoughtfully explained, that lighthouse and that big building over there, he remembered seeing them in his dream. Youngwoo happily turned to him and continued to answer, not changing at all, but why did I come here? He smiled and replied, I want to give you this. Youngwoo remembered the previous surprises and trembled as he spoke, could it be that you bought this beach too? He still looked like he did at that time and answered him, no. He breathed a sigh of relief and spoke out his thoughts. He thought it was just a date, but no matter where he went overboard, so now I feel suspicious. Seeing his appearance, Han curiously asked, are you not satisfied? He quickly denied that it was not so. I just extended my hand and added, now you will also like to receive it. Youngwoo did not hesitate to take his hand, the two of them walked along the beach. While walking, Han told him, you asked me why I came here, right? This dream of going to the beach was the first gift I received from Baek Youngwoo, gifts are nothing strange. Then he stopped, looked straight into his eyes, and expressed his heart. For him, this was a very special gift, it was Baek Youngwoo's happiest memory, right? He was extremely touched by the words that had just been expressed, unconsciously calling his name, Yoon-soo Han. He then took out a red box from his pocket and continued to speak while acting, so he had something to give you in a special place like this. The red velvet box was opened, inside was a sparkling ring, shining in the morning sunlight. Along with the scene in front of Han boldly speaking his heart out, people usually say when confessing their love, I will make you happy in the future, or, let's be together for the rest of our lives. But to him those words were too normal and natural, so he prepared other words. He held the ring box out front, sincerely and patiently expressing that he wanted not only the rest of his life but also all the memories and times before Baek Youngwoo met him. Today he is like to set foot in Baek Youngwoo's happiest memories. He wants to be next to Baek Youngwoo with all the past memories, all the dreams that are about to appear. he said as he took the ring out of the box, gently cradled Young Woo's hands and put them on his ring finger. I will make you happy every second and every minute. Then Han held his hand, said his promise and proposal he would always be by Young Woo's side at all times, so Baek Young Woo should also be by his side. The proposal scene was extremely romantic, a scene in front of him that made him unable to hold back his tears. He cried because happiness came so suddenly. Han saw him crying and hugged him to comfort him. He thought he could only make you cry in bed. He warmly sniffled and acted like a babe to him. How could he say that, but I couldn't cry? He hugged the person in front of him and expressed it. My heart felt like it was about to explode. Before he could be touched any further, his words startled him. He was about to regret many things. As soon as Han finished speaking, there was an explosion and bang in the air. He was startled and shouted, ah. But then, before his eyes were fireworks and a large love confession paper tied to falling balloons filling the sky. Han explained, today is the last one, the timing is just right. It turned out to be a flycam that he had just used for exercise. He sadly exclaimed, oh, I can't live. Too many surprises had happened and he hadn't had time to adapt to his tolerance. But he still innocently replied, I just proposed today and you can't live, so what should I do? You have to live well. Young Woo immediately regained his composure and threw sharp words at Han. What about Yoon Soo Han, who has already proposed but still uses honorifics? Now he should stop and say nothing. There. Hearing that, his sweat dropped in response. There were times when he spoke empty-handed. Just waiting for this moment, he angrily questioned him loudly to vent his anger, the same in bed, the same only when flirting with me. If you say it's empty, I will constantly call Soo-hae Hyung from now on. He is listening. He excitedly urged him to hurry up. At this time, Han shyly spoke, his face turned red. Youngwoo. Seeing that he had begun to respond, he smiled and enjoyed it with great satisfaction. Yes. He suddenly leaned close to him and confessed, I love you. Responding to his feelings, Youngwoo also expressed his feelings, as did Soo-hae Hyung. After that, he also enthusiastically responded to his passionate kiss. At this time on the sea, the waves were still whispering. The two of them were walking on the beach again. At this time he spoke, I want to walk here with you once. He also thought like you, satisfied, and replied he wanted the same. He scolded angrily and spoke honorifically. He could only hesitantly explain he was not used to speaking. Holding leather shoes in their hands, the two waded down to play in the sea. After that, the two hugged each other and moved on the sand. Han made a suggestion to Youngwoo, if you call Soo-hae Hyung, I think I can do it. He heard that and responded, so what? Then he teased and called him by extremely intimate terms, honey, how about this, honey, husband? He walked beside him shyly and helplessly sighing. Youngwoo felt like he was teasing too much, so he told him if he doesn't like it then Soo-hae Hyung. At this time from behind, he was hugged tightly by Han. Two people standing on the beach watching the sunrise are extremely romantic. The marriage proposal is also a beautiful ending for a love affair that opens a new phase. After the extremely romantic proposal, a new phase opens between Han and Youngwoo, which is Taoist Baek's wedding diary. First is the truth about the vacation. Right now Secretary Yang is furious and demands that I will run away from home for a day. Hearing that, Han just calmly replied, oh that's it, I will give you 4 more days and 3 nights of leave so you can comfortably look at cats. We will go on a honeymoon trip. Secretary Yang heard that and happily replied, him heart blooming, what, really? But after sitting with the cats, the secretary suddenly realized that it seemed like he had been tricked. It's clear there's no such thing as a bargain. Around him right now, next to the cats, are piles of scattered documents. The second thing is because of the mood, version 1. The two of them were now sitting on the sofa. Youngwoo turned to ask Han, what do you want to do on your honeymoon? He looked at him and nodded. According to his thoughts, the games he wants to try are bungee jumping, paragliding, and Ferris wheel. Han's sweat dropped and asked Youngwoo again, it seems like you only choose the ones that go up high. Is it because of your mood? He happily replied, it was just because of his mood. The third thing is also due to mood. Youngwoo asked Han again, so what does my Soo-hae Hyung want to do on his honeymoon trip? Exercise together on the beach, exercise in a bubble bath. His sweat dropped and exclaimed, it seemed like he only chose to do those things. It was because of his mood, right? Han also happily admitted that it was just because of his mood. The fourth thing, the easy way to say nothing, he was holding his pillow and running to remind him, Mr. Baek Youngwoo, stop playing with cats. He couldn't help but blame him for saying honorifics again. After waking up, Han immediately asked Baek Youngwoo if he slept well. Faced with this, he exclaimed again. Then when he found out that he was looking for a job online, he turned around and said blankly, Youngwoo, why are you looking for this? He sweated and was speechless in response. At times like this, it's really good for you to speak empty words. Fifth thing, popular trend. While the two of them were sunbathing on a beach chair, I turned to him and asked, "Do you want to receive a wedding gift?" Youngwoo immediately responded with no interest. "Marriage gift? I don't really want anything." Han is still trying to convince you, think carefully. Hearing Han's words, he agreed yes. Then, the items he thought about were matching phone cases, lovers' pajamas, or couple hats. After listening, Han sprayed rigid glue. Seeing that Han didn't answer, he immediately asked if he was listening. At this point, he hesitantly responded, "Oh yeah." Sixth, Han was holding in his hands two twin pigs made of shiny new gold, excitedly saying, "What about this?" When he saw them, he could only scream, "Oh, I told you they were economical." Faced with his instability, he still calmly replied, "I will save money, don't you like it?" He let out a breath and said to Han, if I told him to pick it anyway, he would probably pick it down. Immediately, he produced a certificate certifying that he had bought a star in the universe. Youngwoo widened his eyes. At this point, he was really speechless. The seventh thing, hidden ambition. He sat next to me, thoughtfully said, there is something I want to do." Hearing that, he excitedly asked again, "Say try it, I will do it." He immediately glanced at Han and said his ambition, in fact, he wanted to own Taekyung Group. This time, he rolled his eyes. Youngwoo continued to enthusiastically talk about his plan, take Taekyung Group in his hands, and he will become the god of this worldview, by haha. After hearing that, he just coughed next to him and quietly said, "I heard it." After hearing this, the secretary immediately started sweating and replied bitterly, "Not at all." Eighth thing, giving and receiving. The two of them were sitting on the sofa when Youngwoo suddenly said, "I also want to give you a gift." Hearing that, Han immediately replied that it was okay not to give it. He happily told him, "Hey, think carefully, opportunities like this don't come along every day." In his mind right now, the thought was extremely simple, probably just doing some provocative action or something. Suddenly he replied there was something he wanted to do. Youngwoo was interested when he heard that. His heart bloomed and told him, "What is it? Tell me, I will do everything for you." He said very seriously at this time, "So he will be ready." He seemed to understand his deep intention and responded in panic, "Ready, prepared." Ninth thing, when he saw him receiving the express delivery and then going back and forth, running around all this time, he had a hard time understanding what was he doing. Then while he was listening to music, he tiptoed around with a super dark intention. I was so curious, should I see his dream? That is a common worry of people with superpowers. The 10th thing was as expected but also unexpected. Han confessed to Youngwoo that he was actually extremely worried. He didn't know if this could be considered a gift. He asked him again confused, "HM." He continued to talk, "After all, you said you would do everything, so I prepared very hard." On the outside he smiled and agreed with him, yes, but deep inside he felt differently. He felt so insecure. Han immediately led him into the room he had carefully prepared, extremely excited. Inside is a world of exercise equipment. He picked up a pair of handcuffs and asked him what he thought. Along with the clicking sound of the number 8 handcuffs, he angrily shouted that he was truly a pervert. 50 Shades of Vice President Yoon. They then had a passionate day together.